What's up, guys? Classic Sonic Obsessed Maniac here, and between my sessions of being hyperfixated on Minecraft, I made this tier list ranking every single classic Sonic act, from Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic CD, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic Mania. I'm not counting the 8-bit games, I'm not counting anything like Knuckles Chaotix, I'm not counting shit like Sonic Pocket Adventure or anything like that. Basically all the main classic Sonic games are all going to be counted here. Now you may be wondering, there are tier lists ranking every single classic Sonic zone, but why every single act? Well, that's simple. You can't exactly say that Ice Cap Act 1 and 2 are the same zone, can you? The difference is, one's bad, the other's good. We'll get back to that later. Anyway, let's get started on this. Angel Island Zone Act 1. Well, it's pretty short, but it is iconic. I'm gonna give it an A rank. Just because it's iconic, it has the whole Knuckles cutscene, there's not really any bullshit in it, and it's just an all-around good zone. Angel Island Act 2, though. Well, it's not as good as Act 1, unless you're playing as Knuckles, that is, but even then, that act's way too short. Plus, there's that one section of the platform, which is kind of annoying. I'm gonna give it a B rank, but only because the bomb sequence takes way too long if you're playing as Sonic or Tails. Aquatic Ruin Zone Act 1. I'll be honest, this zone as a whole is actually really underrated. I'm gonna give it a high B rank. It's not as good as other zones in Sonic 2, but it's still fun to speed through. Act 2 isn't as good as Act 1, but I'm still gonna give it a B rank just because it's actually a good underwater Sonic level. Plus you could skip all the water in it if you try hard enough. It would be higher if that one section at the start with that swing platform just didn't exist though. Because if you fall down, you're stuck in the water path and there's almost nothing you can do. Anyway, let's move on. Collision Chaos Act 1. I'll be honest, I hate Collision Chaos, you're getting a D rank. Act 2, not as good as Act 1, honestly. I'm giving that around here. Act 3 is just bullshit. I don't know if I should give it an E rank though. I hate this boss, but if you know what you're doing, or if you're playing with the restored mod that actually gives you Amy, you can clearly just jump over it. I don't know, I'm gonna give it a high E rank, but only because this boss is ass. It's like if they made Casino Night Zone, which hey, just so happens to be next zone on the tier list. It's like if they made Casino Night Zone, but they combined it with Spring Yard a little bit and made it even more bullshit and made you have to explore it. I don't know, it just sounds stupid. But yeah, speaking of Casino Night Zone, Casino Night Zone Act 1. I'll be honest, again, it's not really that good. I don't want to give it a D rank, but at the same time, if I fucking put anything below S, people are gonna get mad at me. And whatever, people are gonna get mad at me for saying Ice Cap is shit later on, so you're getting a high C rank. Act 2 is getting, I don't know. It's gonna be below Act 1 though. The boss is kind of bullshit, so I'm just gonna put it in C as well. Carnival Night Act 1. I'll be honest, Carnival Night might actually be one of the best zones in Sonic 3. I want to say maybe high A tier, maybe, actually no. You're getting an S tier actually. You're actually a fun zone to run around. The only section I could possibly think that could be a problem is that one section with the barrel that's going up and down that can easily stop you like 90% of the time and you have to slowly wait for it to come back down. But other than that, not really a problem. It's just fun to run around. Act 2 is a little worse than Act 1, I'd say. It's a bit too long. Also, the barrel's kind of stupid. If you know what the hell you're doing, it's not bad, though. I'm gonna give it a high B rank, actually. Also because in the original Sonic 3 and stuff, you could actually clip into the ground, which has happened to me on multiple occasions. Which is kind of stupid, but it's whatever. Anyway, first Sonic Mania zone on the list. Chemical Plant Zone Act 1. Honestly, I don't know how to rank this. I might just give it a A rank just because it's actually just a solid zone in general. I can't exactly think of any real problems with it. It's just an improvement on Sonic 2's Chemical Plant in like almost every way and combines Act 1 and 2 in the same zone. Act 2 on the other hand, another fun zone to run around. I'm actually gonna give this I'm gonna actually give this an S rank. Really like what they did here. They made the wacky workbench gimmick actually fun with the jelly. The one possible thing that it could say that could possibly criticize it is if you're bad at Puyo Puyo, the boss will definitely be a pace breaker, but at the same time, Eggman's piss easy in that boss as well. But other than that, really fun to just run around. Anyway, Chemical Plant Act 1 from the original Sonic 2. It's solid enough, but there is a couple issues I have with it. For one, it only really affects a couple versions of Sonic 2, and, well, there's that one jump that you can make the skip about like 15 seconds towards the end of the level. If you jump at this one section with the loops, you could actually skip up to this platform and then spin dash up to the signpost. It's actually pretty hard to do, but I'm just gonna put this just below Mania's Chemical Plant Act 1, only because they actually improved upon it a ton here. Act 2, on the other hand, I'm gonna put it below Act 1. I'm actually gonna put it about here, actually. It's a bit low, but the one thing that actually puts it down for me is the boss fight. Not because it's hard or anything, but because Tails can easily fuck you over if you're playing with a duo. If Tails starts hitting the boss while you're trying to cheese him, there is a very good chance that he will hit you, and because Eggman has invincibility frames for a bit after you hit him, there is a very good chance that you'll just go right through him. And if the platforms below you are down, that means you're dying because Tails fucks you over. That's happened to me on way too many occasions, and well, it just pisses me off. I will say though, there is a few skips here that are actually pretty fun to do. Other than that, decent little zone, other than the boss. It's kind of mitigated if you don't play with a duo, Sonic and Tails though. But then again, if you don't play with a duo, at least in the original Sonic 2 that is, you can't exactly skip through this door. So, you take some, you lose some, it's one huge trade. Anyway, Doomsday Zone. I don't even know how to rank this. This is like a completely different gameplay style. It's like if I put the special stages in here or something. Which, no, I'm not doing. That's ridiculous. I like the spectacle of it, but it's a little too easy once you know the layout. I'm gonna put it at high C tier, but only because it's kind of a chore on repeat playthroughs. But the bosses are actually a cool spectacle though. Anyway, Death Egg Act 1 from Sonic and Knuckles. It kind of depends on what version you're playing. If you're playing the original Sonic 3 and Knuckles, or Sonic and Knuckles, whatever, it's okay, but it drags on for a little bit. The boss is absolute bullshit though. But if you're playing something like Sonic 3 Air, Sonic 3 Complete, or hell, even Sonic Origins, there's this whole secret path that you can take with a lightning shield. And well, it skips most of the act. Well, technically, you could also take this path if you use Tails. I might put you around high C, just because of the boss. Act 2, on the other hand, it's pretty good as well, though I might put it just above Act 1, only because there's a couple sections that are completely stupid. Like, why'd they put a checkpoint right before this upside down elevator where if you end up dying before you hit the next checkpoint, you have to do this whole upside down elevator sequence, or especially with Tails, whenever you jump and land on it again, the direction of the conveyor belt actually just completely changes on you. Meanwhile, you're being shot at every direction, you're all disoriented because you're upside down, and you have 0 rings because they put a checkpoint right here with no rings for you. If it was up to me, I'd put a checkpoint before the first elevator, but I digress. Anyway, Act 2, I will say, other than that, the bosses are pretty good, except for that whole ball thing where you have to spin dash these little car things onto them. It takes a little bit, but once you learn the pattern, it's not too bad. The boss itself is a pretty good spectacle, though. Anyway, original Death Egg Zone. Not as good as either of these, obviously, because it's literally just 2 bosses, but I will say it's a good challenge. The only problem I could really think of with the Death Egg robot is sometimes in the original Sonic 2 you can clip inside of him if you hit him wrong. I'm just gonna put it between Doomsday Zone and Death Egg Act 1 from Sonic & Knuckles. Emerald Hill Zone Act 1. Solid opening stage. I might put you... Actually, you know what? Do I put you at S tier? I might put you around here, actually. People are gonna get mad at me because it's above Chemical Plant, but honestly, I just really like Emerald Hill. Act 2 is also pretty fun to speedrun. The boss isn't that bad either. If anything, it's piss easy, but you could actually beat it in 2 swipes if you know what you're doing, even without Supersonic. I'm gonna put it just below Act 1, actually. Actually, no. I'm gonna put it right here. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm just gonna put it here. Egg Reverie. Worst Doomsday Zone, if you ask me. Honestly, the boss is okay, it's just kind of stupid. I hate how the dash costs rings now. I really like the atmosphere of it, but I do kind of like the concept of the hard-boiled heavies and Eggman fighting over the Phantom Ruby. I like that, but the fact this ends up leading to forces, I don't know. I might put it down here, honestly. It's kind of an boss. Anyway, Flying Battery Act 1 from Mania. I will say, this is a huge improvement over the Sonic & Knuckles version. They got rid of a ton of waiting that you had to do, and well, having a lightning shield attracted to the ceilings is actually a really good idea, and I love what they did with it. Honestly, I might put you right here, actually. I might change my mind and swap these two around later, but I really like what they did here. Act 2 is also really solid. I like what they did with trying to implement some stuff from the 8-bit games. I like what they did by implementing some stuff from Wing Fortress. It's just the ultimate classic Sonic Sky Fortress level. And not the Sky Fortress from Sonic 4, by the way. Anyway, where should this go? Honestly, I might put it above Emerald Hill Act 1. Chemical Plant Act 2 is still better in it, but it's still solid. The only problem I really have with this zone is it takes a little too long. Each playthrough of it takes about 4 minutes. But I do like what they did with it. There's a lot of stuff to find here, too, I will say. It's really good for exploration. In comparison, though, Sonic & Knuckles' version of Flying Battery honestly sucked ass. I will be honest. Act 1 isn't too bad, but the boss is literally just waiting. Honestly, high D rank. People are going to get mad at me for that, but again, people are going to get mad at me for everything down here anyway, so nothing really out of the ordinary. Act 2 is even worse, honestly. There's way too many of those stupid elevators where you can do nothing but wait. The bosses are all waiting. Hell, the first boss is literally just waiting for the laser to kill itself. It's just a worse version of the Wing Fortress boss. You have to wait for that slow-ass platform to come up, which even in air takes a long-ass time. So honestly, I don't think it deserves E rank, but I might put it around here, actually. I don't know, I just really don't like it. Anyway, Final Zone. Literally just RNG. It's not bad for a boss, but it's literally just RNG. I'm gonna put it at high E rank, but I don't know. I'm not into it. Mania Green Hill Zone Act 1. I will say, this is a great first level for Mania. It's a good combination of Emerald Hill, Green Hill, and Palm Tree Panic. Basically just taking all the good things from all of them and just slapping them all into one huge level based on Green Hill Zone Act 1 and 2. Honestly, I might put it right here, actually. I'd say it's better in Emerald Hill Zone, better in Angel Island, it's better in a lot of other levels. And, well, Mania's Act 2 makes it even better. It's actually a really fun level to speedrun. It has those pulleys and stuff. I don't think they were used in another classic Sonic level before this, so that's a whole original gimmick. I'm gonna put... Honestly, I might put it around here. It's a fun level to speedrun. That's all I'll have to say. Fun level to explore, too, by the way, especially if you're Tails or something. Anyway, where's the original Green Hill stack up with this? These are also pretty good levels, I will say. I won't say it meets up with Emerald Hill Act 1 per se. I'm gonna put Act 1 just below Act 2 of Emerald Hill, just because this is a classic Sonic level. This is the classic Sonic level. This is the classic Sonic level of all time, as Sega would let you know every single game. I don't really have any problems with it, it's just a little short for my tastes. And, well, the fact that Green Hill Zone's in every fucking game now, that kinda sours it a little bit. Act 2, as you can see in the picture, this is the section I absolutely despise about it, but other than that, around the same problems I have with Act 1, it's okay, but the layout's a little stupid. The one problem I do have with it, which is honestly gonna bump it all the way down to the top of B tier, actually. As you can see, these spikes here. If you get hit by these, there's a very good chance you'll end up bouncing through this platform and into the pit below. For some reason, they didn't make the sides of these platforms solid, so there's a very good chance you'll just die here without any explanation. It's happened to literally everyone, and it's actually just completely stupid. And then yes, I will say, Mania's Green Hill Act 1 did fix that problem, thank fuck. But yeah, it's stupid, that shouldn't even be a problem. Green Hill Zone Act 3, around the same... Actually, no. This is going above Green Hill Act 1, actually. You know what? No, this is actually better than Emerald Hill Act 2. This is actually the best Green Hill Zone Act to speedrun. There's speed shoes inside of the trees that you can use. It's just fun to jump over everything, and the boss, iconic, even though it's overused now. The layout itself is just fun to fuck around in. It's not too short, not too long, fun to speed through, stuff like that. It's just a solid classic Sonic level. Anyway, Hydro City Act 1 from Mania. While I will say it's a good combination of all the underwater Sonic gimmicks from all the 8-bit games, Sonic 1, 2, 3 Knuckles, Tidal Tempest, shit like that. It's also a fucking underwater level, so I don't know. It takes a little long, but also the boss is pretty cool. I'm gonna put this at the top of... I'm gonna put this at the bottom of A tier, just because it needs another fucking level here, but... It's not a bad level per se, it's a pretty damn good level, but it just goes on for a little too long if you ask me. Act 2 has the opposite problem if you ask me. It's a little too similar to the original, which I'll get to later. It's a little bit of a straight line if you ask me, but it does a little better than the original. The boss is also pretty cool, like being able to just throw the bombs at Eggman or using the super form to just cheese the boss, and then after that, just being the whole egg washing machine battle from Act 1 of Hydro City in the original, that's pretty cool. It's better than Act 1, I'll say. I'm gonna put it around here, if anything. Actually, no. That doesn't really make too much sense. I'm gonna put it around here. Act 1 of the original Hydro City. What do I really say about this? It's better than the Mania version, if you ask me, just because there's less bullshit. It's actually a pretty fun level to speedrun. There's a lot of different paths that you can use. If you use Tails in particular, it's actually a really fun level to fucking around in. Because with his flight, you can do a ton of weird little shortcuts with him. Plus, there's a few secrets that only Tails can access, like this huge jackpot of rings up here, which has like 100 or so rings. I'm gonna put this about here. It might be a little high if you ask me, but yeah. Act 2 isn't really too good if you ask me. The music's good, but other than that, it's kind of just a straight line. I mean, of course you could do this little shortcut with a spin dash just to skip sections, but at the same time, it's kind of just the same thing over and over. So I'm gonna put it between Green Hill Act 2 and Aquatic Ruin. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it between Aquatic Ruin Act 1, Angel Island Act 2. I know people are gonna get mad at me for this, but I'm just not a fan, really. Hidden Palace Zone. I'm gonna count this as the 2013 version, not Proto Palace or any of the Hidden Palaces from any of the prototypes or any of the remakes or anything like that. I'll be honest, the zone itself is fun, but the boss fucking ruins it unless you're Supersonic. Or Tails for that matter, where you could just cheese it. It takes so fucking long for no reason. You shouldn't have to wait like 2 minutes to fight a fucking boss. And as a result, especially if you're Knuckles, this zone fucking drags. I'd rather just skip the whole zone as a matter of fact and just go right to Oil Ocean instead. And as a result, you're getting a D tier. I'm just not a fan, really. It's creative, but it just takes too damn long. That's the problem. Hidden Palace Zone from Sonic & Knuckles, on the other hand, it's kind of a nothing zone, but I'm just gonna end up going off the narrative alone. The layout itself doesn't really have much to go off of, so I'm just gonna have to go off of this. The Knuckles battle is a cool set piece. The whole cutscene where Eggman portrays Knuckles, that's a good set piece. Though to be fair, on repeat playthroughs, it takes way too fucking long. I'm not even gonna mention Knuckles' version of the act since it's literally just a straight line. I'm not gonna put it at a really low rank. I'm gonna put it just before Doomsday Zone. But only because the set pieces are fucking cool. Plus the whole implication with the mural is actually just cool. Anyway, Hilltop Act 1. Underrated as hell, I will be honest. It's actually a really fun zone to zip through. I mean, sure, there's a little bit of waiting with the seesaws, but it doesn't really ruin the flow or anything. I'm actually gonna put this at high A tier, which is a little high, but I personally really agree with that. Act 2, on the other hand, it's not as good as Act 1, especially with like the boss being just stupid. There's a little bit more waiting, and well, the whole section with the volcanoes just, it takes a little too long. It drags on a little bit, but I do enjoy it. I'm gonna put it about here, which again is a little high. I might change my mind later on, but yeah. Anyway, here's when people are going to fucking hate me. Ice Cap Act 1. D tier. Let me explain myself. Why do you people hate Marble Zone so much for having just waiting all the time and it's just stupidly linear? when Ice Cap Act 1 is exactly that. The snowboarding sequence doesn't exactly change much when it only lasts 10 seconds. It's practically automatic. And 99% of this act takes place underground, where all you're doing is pushing around blocks, trying to weave around platforms, and there's like zero alternative paths that you could possibly use to skip the bullshit. At least in Marble Zone, with good timing and shit, you could actually skip shit if you really wanted to. But in terms of Ice Cap Act 1, it's just one giant straight line. Knuckles' version of the act is a little better because he can simply break the walls that the platforms can break, but that's just because he can complete this fucking zone in less time. Ice Cap Act 2 is a huge improvement though. It's a little short for my tastes, but it's a lot better than Act 1 is. It's a fun zone to zip through, there's some good platforming to do with it. The boss is a little but I do like it. Also, I like those little purple things that you can bounce off. I'm gonna put it somewhere in B tier, maybe just after Green Hill Act 2, if anything. I know this is a huge gap, but trust me, it makes a lot of sense. Launch Base Act 1 is a pretty fun zone, I'll be honest. There's multiple cool ways you could beat the zone. You could obviously do the zip here at the start of the zone if you know how to do it. I accidentally right-clicked. Go the normal way. You can complete it with Supersonic. You can do basically anything you want, really. There's not really that much I could really say that's wrong with it. There's a little bit of bullshit design, but it's still a fun zone to run around. It's not really anything too bad. I'm gonna put it at the top of B tier. Act 2 is a little short for my taste. There's a little too much waiting, but again, the spectacle's alright. I just don't feel like waiting so much. That's a huge common theme here, I realize, but I just don't like waiting. So it's gonna be below Act 1. I'm gonna put it here. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it just below Angel Island Act 2. If the waiting with the cutscenes at the end, if those were shorter, then I would like it more, but as it is right now, it's kind of a problem. Lava Reef Act 1 from Mania. I'll be honest, I don't really know what to say with this one. It's just a solid zone. It's an improvement over Act 1 from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and well, I like the whole wood aesthetic that it went for. I like what it did. The boss is okay. It's not too good. It's like that one drill mech that you can see in the original, but huge. It takes a little while to defeat, but I do like it. I'm gonna put it around here. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it here. But only because if I had a little more experience with Mania under my belt, at least recently, I'd probably put it somewhere in A tier, but I can't really imagine too much from it right now. Act 2 for Mania. I do also like this. It's not as good as Act 1, I'll say, but the fact that they do have a separate boss for Act 2 is Knuckles with the whole Master Emerald Shrine, and you have the whole Quartz Quadrant thing. I would say it's not as good as the original, I'd say, but it's still a pretty fun zone in its own right. I'll put it here. Again, that might be a little low, but it's just my opinion. Anyway, where's the original stack up in terms of this? Well, obviously, like I said before, Act 1 of Mania beats this one, so I'd say it goes maybe around here. I might change that, but there's some sections that kind of make it a little slow. You could also clip through this platform here if you use the glitches, but again, I don't know if I should be counting glitches, but I'm gonna do it anyway, fuck you. It's fun little zone to run around. The boss takes a little long to defeat, but it's okay. Act 2, on the other hand, I like the theming. I like the music. I think the layout's a little better than what they did with Mania. The only problem I have with it is the boss. It takes so fucking long to defeat for absolutely no reason. It's like 14 fucking hits to defeat this guy. You have a whole auto-scroller beforehand, and practically all you're doing is just waiting around for 2 minutes. This is improvement to the Mania version if you're playing as Knuckles, but if you're playing as Sonic or Tails, granted you don't do glitches to just skip the Hidden Palace Zone. Oh my god, this drags on. Honestly, I'm gonna put it below the Mania version solely for that reason, and as a result, it's getting somewhere in the C tier. I'm gonna say it goes between the Death Eggs, though I really don't want it to be this low. I want to put it up here, but I just can't because of the boss. I just can't. Anyway, Labyrinth Zone Act 1. Well, again, this is one of those things where it sort of depends on what version you're playing. If you're playing a version of Sonic 1 where you have extra features like the elemental shields, tails, knuckles, basically anything that could break the fucking game, this practically just turns into a really fun zone to fuck around in. But in the original Sonic 1, it's kind of tedious, especially if you're trying to get to the shortcut. If you fail it, you have to spend like 2 minutes just wandering around the slow path, but it's also a pain in the ass to get up here. If you're using Tails or Knuckles, you can obviously just jump the gap, but if you're playing a Sonic, you're kind of fucked. But if you have the elemental shields, you can do this jump here with this little enemy here and just skip the entire act with the bubble shield if you really wanted to. Honestly, I don't really know where to put this. I'm gonna do the middle ground. If it had the elemental shield, it'd be somewhere in A tier. I know that's way too high for Labyrinth Zone. I know a lot of people just put it in E tier, but honestly, I'm gonna put it here because there's less bullshit than I'd say Chemical Plant Act 2. Labyrinth Zone Act 2. Fun zone to speedrun if you have the spin dash. Fun fact, you could actually beat this without a single air bubble if you have the spin dash. In the original Sonic 1, you obviously can't do that, but the fact you could actually do that in versions of Sonic 1 with the spin dash honestly just makes this a fun zone to speedrun. Surprisingly enough, for Labyrinth Zone, I know. I'm gonna put it... Actually, you know what? I don't know if it'll beat Green Hill, but I'm just gonna put it here. I don't want to put it too high, but at the same time, it's not bad like people want to say. Act 3, on the other hand, is like the closest to bad we're actually gonna get. I wouldn't call this bad per se, but the boss kind of ruins it. It's kind of bullshit. Even if you do get into a pattern, if you get hit by one of those arrows at the exact right way, there is a very good chance that you will fall all the way down to the bottom of the boss fight. And then you have to somehow get all the way back up without drowning, which is practically impossible in some cases. But other than that, the 2 paths, that's a good system if you know what you're doing. It's kind of a nothing stage if you ask me. It's worse than Act 1, but not bad in particular. I'm gonna put high C tier, but I might put, again, Between the Death Eggs or something. I don't know. I might put it here, actually. It's not bad, but it's not as good as the other 2 acts, especially Act 2. Mystic Cave Act 1. Underrated zone. Wish the layout was a little better, but it's not bad. Again, I might actually put it between Lava Reef Act 1, Ice Cap Act 2. It's not too fun to speedrun, but the music really is just a godsend. Act 2. Also, an okay stage. It's not as good as Act 1. There's not really that much speedrunning stuff you can really do with Act 2, but I'm not really going to count the pit as anything other than, like, the entrance to Hidden Palace Zone. The pit is stupid if you're a new player, I will admit. It's a stupidly designed trap, if you ask me. It really shouldn't have been there. I might put it between Aquatic Ruin Act 1, Labyrinth Zone Act 2. The boss is actually pretty fun to speedrun, though, I will admit. You could actually spin dash here and actually just defeat the boss in one cycle if you know what you're doing. Mystic Cave Act 2, not as good as Act 1, but still fun in its own right. Marble Garden Act 1. Actually a top tier Sonic 3 stage. You know what? I don't know if this will go above or below Carnival Act 1, but this might actually be one of my favorite stages in the whole game. I might put this around here, and let me just explain myself. Even if you're not doing speedrun tricks where you can just jump to the end of the stage or any bullshit like that, it's just fun to fuck around in. There's so many paths that you can explore around. There's big rings all over the place. There's just so much you can do here. I mean, sure, you might get lost here if you're a new player, but if you're an experienced Sonic player like me, this is just a huge playground for you to fuck around in. The only real problem I would say is that there's a little bit dickish level design here, but again, that's kind of mitigated once you know the layout. It's just fun to fuck around in, if you ask me. Act 2 isn't as good as Act 1 though, but that's just simply because there isn't as many paths to explore. The boss itself is a spectacle though, and as a result, it's still getting a high grade. I'm gonna put it high A tier. Though I will be honest, the Knuckles boss is a little faster than the Sonic boss, if you ask me. That's why I usually just try to skip to it whenever I can, whenever I'm playing vanilla Sonic 3 Knuckles, because if you're Hypersonic, you can just straight up jump to the Knuckles boss if you really want to. Fun little zone, I'll be honest. Mushroom Hill Act 1. Another really fucking good stage. It's not the best first stage, but I will be honest, it actually beats out Marble Garden Zone Act 1. I'm gonna put between Emerald Hill Act 1, Green Hill Act 1 from Mania. The whole thing with Knuckles hiding the whole big ring, that's just a cool little spectacle right there. Being able to explore around Mushroom Hill, that's just a fun thing to do. You can get a ton of speed going around, there's a ton of little puzzles and stuff, there's just a lot of stuff to do. I really like it. Act 2 is also pretty damn good. It's not as good as Act 1 per se, but it's also really fucking fun to explore. I might put it around here. And if you combine Act 1 and 2, there's more than enough big rings for you to actually get all the Super Emeralds, or Chaos Emeralds for that matter, within both acts, so you don't even really need to do anything within Flying Battery the Lava Reef if you really don't want to. It's just a fun zone to fuck around in, again. It's just fun. Metallic Madness Zone Act 1 from Mania. I'll be honest, this might be the most forgettable zone in the whole game, even if the gimmicks in it are pretty cool. I just don't really remember it, to be honest. My brain just sort of turns off during it. There's just not really anything bad inherently in it, but I just don't really like it. The whole jumping into the background is kind of cool, but other than that, it's kind of forgettable. It's kind of like the original, but I don't know. I might put it somewhere down here. It's not bad, but it's not good. It's just not really memorable, honestly. Act 2 isn't really that much better. Honestly, the gimmick with turning small, I do think it's a cool thing in concept, but in execution, it takes way too long just to get zapped into the small form. It takes way too long just to do everything. The boss is okay. I should also mention the Act 1 boss is pretty much just a copy of Final Zones, but with a little less RNG to be involved in. Act 2, I'd say, is a little worse than Act 1, but only simply because the laser thing takes like a second or so to actually do anything. I'm gonna put it down here. I don't know if that's the right position for it. It feels a little wrong, but I don't know. It just feels weird. Metallic Madness Zone Act 1 from Sonic CD. Honestly, worse than the Mania one, if you ask me. I'm gonna put this act somewhere down here. But it's only really because there's a little bit dickish level design. It's kind of forgettable if you ask me. I don't really know that much about this zone, to be honest. I just sort of just turn my brain off again, just run through it. Act 2 is a little better, but only because there's that one skip that you can do towards the top of the level where you can literally skip the entire rest of the zone if you really want to. And because of that, this actually gets a higher grade. You could actually do this in every single version of Sonic CD, by the way. If you super peel out or spin dash on this one little platform, it will release it at the right time. You can fling yourself to the top of the level and just run past the goalpost way too early. It also skips all the mini Sonic bullshit, so all the stuff from Act 2 is actually mitigated from, oh well, Act 2 from Mania is. It's actually mitigated. So this actually gets higher than this, I'll be honest. You know what? This might actually be better in both acts, actually. I'm gonna put it here. The beginning part is a little bullshit, and well, the path to get to that one section is a little hard to get to, but once you know where it is, it's sort of just a little trek to get up there. The only hard part is the wheels, honestly. Act 3, though, is honestly worse than both acts combined, though. Not just because the boss is just slow, but you already know how I'm gonna feel about slow. The one thing that I just don't like about the act is the lead up to the boss, because there's this whole section where you have to go through this whole thing with those spinny platforms from Scrap Brain Zone over a bottomless pit, and if you fuck up, you're going to die. That's also the only pit in Sonic CD, if I remember right. It shouldn't be like that. There should at the very least just be like a floor of springs or something. Hell, even the bouncy floor from Wacky Workbench would be better than that. Or hell, even a spike pit would be better if you had like a spring on the left side of it. I don't know. Anything better than a bottomless pit. Either that, or you can remove the crusher on the way you're supposed to go, because so many times I've tried to cross through there, and well, that crusher just happens to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time, so I can't exactly cross, so I have to keep going across those little platforms over and over. I don't know, I just really don't like it. I'm gonna put this down here. Actually, don't know. You're going down here. It's going below Collision Chaos. I just don't think it's really a good zone. It's a nice challenge. It's better than, let's say, Collision Chaos Act 3, but it's still not good. Anyway, on to more Mania shit. Encore Mirage Saloon Act 1. Yes, I'm gonna count this as its own act. I'll be honest, this is way better than, obviously, the Mania mode version for Sonic and Tails. It's the pretty good zone rate. It's not really too memorable. I don't really remember the layout per se, but I do like how it's like sort of like a sunrise thing at the train station or whatever in Mirage Saloon, because there's a whole train thing going on, because the whole train from Act 1 is Sonic and Tails in Mania mode. I do like how you could walk around on them, kind of like that one section. I like that. I like the whole theming of it. I'm not gonna put it in S tier, but I'm not gonna put it at the top of A tier. I'm gonna put it here, which again might seem a little high, but it's okay. Knuckles' version of Act 1. I mean, I like how it's a whole Knuckles exclusive act. I wish more games did that. I do like this. It's just, I don't know. It's a good zone. I just don't think it's better in the Encore version. I'm gonna put it here, which might seem a little low, but it's okay. I do like it. The boss for both of these is kind of though. It's a nice reference to Sonic Chaos, but I'm just not really too into it per se. It's just, I feel like I have to damage boost through the entire thing. It's just stupid. Mirage Saloon Act 1 for Sonic and Tails. Zoop. You're getting an E tier. It's literally just a Sky Chase ripoff. The boss here sucks. You have to go through an entire Sky Chase sequence beforehand, which takes like 2 minutes. I swear it takes longer than the original Sky Chase, if anything. I don't like Sky Chase. I don't like it. It takes too long. You don't really do anything. It's not even like how in the original Sky Chase, which I'll get to later. You could spin dash around, just grind lines, which is fun. Also, in that Sky Chase, you could also stand in the corner for 40 seconds, but again, I'll get to it when I get to it. Anyway, that zone sucked. Act 2. Much better. It's going between Act 1 Encore and Act 1 for Knuckles. The only real problem I have with it is it's too short. I'm gonna put it here. Also, the boss, it's a cute little reference, I'll give it that, but again, it takes too long. Also, it's like a little finicky to hit. I wish the zone was a little longer than like 1:30. I wish the boss was a little shorter. Those are like my only 2 nitpicks though. I do like it though. Metropolis Zone Act 1. Not as bad as people say, but not good either. I really don't know where I could put this. It's kind of just a mid zone if you ask me. I might put it here. There's not really that many skips you can do unless you're like playing the beta layout or something, which I prefer actually. There's less bullshit in it, but yeah. Act 1, not too good, but not too bad either. Act 2, this is an improvement to Act 1. There's a few little shortcuts you can do. There's a whole wall you can jump through to save some time. There's this whole platforming sequence with these little gears over lava, which is pretty fun to jump through. It's more fun than Act 1 is, but it's also not really that good of a zone to begin with. I'm gonna put it below Mystic Cave Act 2, but only because it could be better. It's not too good, but it's not bad either. Act 3, on the other hand, is bad, I'll be honest. Not only did this fucking act not need to exist, the one thing that makes me despise this act more than anything is that giant-ass screw that you have to run up at the end of the act, with the Astrons on the right, which activate every time you run past one, so you practically need to stop every single time you do it. And every single time, if you get hit, you have to run back, get the screw to respawn off screen, and you have to keep running up it, and there's a slicer at the top too. Sometimes it has its slicer things on it, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's turned around. It's just a whole crapshoot at the very end. Not to mention the boss. The boss is complete bullshit if you don't have the insta-shield. I just don't like this zone. I don't like it. I'm going to put it below Egg Reverie. It's not a good zone. I don't like it. It's okay before the screw sequence, but once you get to that screw sequence, it nosedives, I'll be honest. It just sucks. Anyway, Marble Zone Act 1. Nowhere near as bad as people try to make it seem. It could definitely be better. It's way too linear just to begin with, which I know I criticize Ice Cap Act 1 of being, but it's also not F-tier stage like a lot of people want to make it seem like. You can do some speedy little platforming it once you know the layout. I'm gonna give it a little over Mystic Cave Act 1, but it's still a little fun. Actually, don't know. I'm gonna put it below both acts of Mystic Cave, actually. I'm gonna put it down here. It's not as fun as Mystic Cave, but I will admit, Act 2 of Marble Zone, on the other hand, definitely beats both of them. And it's all because you could actually do some cool little skips with your momentum if you actually know what you're doing. Honestly, you know what? No, this is gonna beat both. Actually, no, I'm not gonna do that. Both acts definitely do scale out Ice Cap Act 1, but Act 2 is just fun. I wish there was a little less time inside of the underground sequence, but it's still fun to fuck around in. There's a lot of stuff you can do with your momentum. You can do some speedy platforming in it, just like Act 1. There's just a lot of fun stuff you can do. Act 3. It sort of depends on what version you play, to be honest. Act 3 in the original kind of sucks. There is a whole shortcut you can do to get an extra life, and you can skip most of the stage with Sonic. Though there is a whole mandatory block pushing sequence that you have to do. It's kind of bullshit if you play it on the original Sonic 1, but if you're playing the 2013 remaster or anything that adds anything for Knuckles, you could just straight skip most of the act and complete the thing in like 1 minute 20 seconds if you really try hard enough. In the 2013 remake, they actually added this whole sequence on top of the wall before you end up in the underground sequence. If you climb that as Knuckles or fly up there with Tails, there's the entire sequence for just them. It's a lot shorter than the original path is. Plus, there's no block pushing or any other bullshit. It's just fun to fuck around in. If we're counting the 2013 layouts, if you're playing as Tails or Knuckles, this is definitely getting all the way up here. But if you're playing the original Sonic 1, which I guess I'll count here, it's gonna have to go down here. Mania's Oil Ocean Act 1. Another kind of forgettable stage. There's not really too much you can do. I like how you can burn the oil in this. I like the little creativity they do with it. I hate the boss, though. The boss is just stupid. It's trying to be the Mushroom Hill Act 1 boss, but it's like worse in every single way. If you're standing not in the middle, if he starts sprouting those little things at you, you will die because the Crush Death. It doesn't help that you're in the Retro Engine, where Crush Deaths are like literally everywhere. It's a good zone, but I'm not really super into it. I'm gonna put it below Mystic Cave Act 1. Act 2, honestly a little worse. The fog gimmicks, kind of a cute reference to Sandopolis Zone, which I don't know why you'd reference that considering the fact most people hate that zone. But, well, the boss, it's a good challenge. It's a little too difficult, though, without trying to just damage boost your way through it or use Supersonic or anything like that. The submarines, they take a little too long to actually fade into, which is a little problem that I have. It's a cool zone to run through. It's kind of creative. I actually kind of prefer it to Act 1, maybe. You know what? I'm going to put it just above Mania's Act 1. I just wish there was a little more improvement. If that was the case, it would easily be around where Launch Base is right now. But as it is right now, it's just kind of eh. Sonic 2's original Oil Ocean Act 1, on the other hand. Act 1 is actually pretty fun to fuck around in, because you could easily just do the intended strat and go through the entire level. But if you're me, you skip under the oil, which is a lot more fun because it's a huge risk-reward system. If you fuck up, you're dying and going all the way back to the beginning. But if you actually complete the entire thing, which you have to do, like, split-second decisions, like 5 of them right next to each other, if you do that, you're easily gonna beat the stage in under a minute, which is really satisfying to do, so you're getting an A tier. Low A tier, but still A tier regardless. Act 2, on the other hand, not as fun. It's fun to time attack if you're playing as Tails, for example, because you can just straight up fly and beat the stage in under a minute, but if you're playing as Sonic, for example, and if you have to do the boss as well, the boss is able to be one-cycled. It's pretty hard to do, but you have to use this invincibility box or Supersonic to do it, and it's just really fucking hard to do, and it's punishing as hell if you don't do it too, since you have to wait like 45 seconds for this whole phase to finish. Then you have to wait for them to pop up and just pray you can get it by the second phase. I don't know. It's worse than Act 1, but I'm gonna put it down here. It's a little low again, but I really don't know where else I could put this. Press Gar in Act 1. It's kind of like Launch Base in a way. It's a little more fun than Launch Base in some ways, but there's less shortcuts you can do. You can get more speed in some places. I like the theming of it. I like what they're doing with the whole newspaper press thing. Kind of makes me think that Eggman's making this whole fake news thing against Sonic, especially with the whole TV studio in Studiopolis. I don't know. This is again, it's a pretty fun stage. I just don't really know that much about it. I know more about Launch Base, but I don't know. I might put it here. I want to be a little fair. It might be a little lower in my opinion, but I do like it. Act 2, on the other hand, is exactly what I wish Ice Cap was. Like, I wish that they had, you know, the freezing gimmick inside of Ice Cap Zone. I wish it acted like this instead of just outright hurting you. Honestly, this is getting an A rank. I don't know where this is gonna go. This might actually go like around here. It's a little short for my tastes, again. And the boss is kind of bullshit because I have absolutely no fucking clue what I'm supposed to do without abusing invincibility frames. Of course, you can hit the Astron for some reason, but the boss is okay. The zone itself is actually really fucking cool, though. I love the aesthetic. I love the layout. It's just a fun thing to explore around in. Puncture Panic Act 1. Probably one of the best zones in Sonic CD, if you ask me. And that's just because it doesn't really have the opportunity to introduce any of the bullshit yet. It's kind of like if you had Green Hill Zone with a little less of a good layout and you had more of a focus on exploration. It's like an alternative universe of Sonic 3 or Mania, if you ask me. I'm gonna put it about here. Act 1 is pretty fun to speedrun as well. There's a little bit just bullshit obstacles in the way, but it's still fun. Act 2's in a similar boat. It's not as good as Act 1, but I still like it. You're gonna go around here. It's still fun, though. Act 3 is just a joke. Just because the boss. It's just a straight line, then you end up at the boss, which you could just defeat by going behind him and hitting him 3 times. It's a joke. It's not even a funny joke, honestly. And as a result, I mean, it's better in Collision Chaos Act 3, but there's also, like, zero challenge, so you're just getting a high E tier. I mean, sure, I have Hidden Palace here, but at the very least, that actually had some theming going on. Anyway, Quartz Quadrant Act 1. People say that this is one of the best zones in CD. It's kind of just there, if you ask me. I really just don't really care for it. This is just where I get the last time stone, really, if you ask me. I know where the generator is. It's just a little hard trying to get to the pass sign and trying to actually go to the pass. That's like the one hard part for me, but it's not a bad zone per se, but it's also not really good either. I'd say it goes around the level of Hydra City Act 2. Act 2 is more the same. It's sort of just the same thing. I don't really know much of a difference between Act 1 and 2. I'm just going to put it at the exact same thing since I really can't tell a difference between the two. If you ask me which one's Act 1, Act 2, I would not be able to tell you. Act 3 is literally just a straight line, honestly. I wouldn't say it's worse than the Collision Chaos's boss, but I'd say it's maybe worse than Final Zone's boss just because at the very least, with the RNG, you have some control over it because you could position Sonic right before the things go down. With this, it's literally just a straight line for like 45 seconds and then you just defeat him and win. That's literally all it is, and it's not really fun. Scrap Brain Act 1. I really don't know what to say about this. This zone fucking sucks casually, but if you know where you're going, it's not too bad, especially how like the insta-shield so you can insta-shield through the fire. There's some cool shit you can do. Well, if you're just playing the original Sonic 1, this is ass. I hate this. But if you have more features, it turns bearable. I'll say that much. It's not bad. I'm gonna put it at high D tier. Act 2 is a little better. There's less bullshit level design, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm gonna put it above Act 1, but it's also not really good. I'm gonna put it somewhere in C tier. I'd say I'm gonna put it here. It's not really good, but it's not bad either. Act 3 might actually be the best act, but only because it's actually a fun level to speedrun if you know what you're doing. Casually, if you just take the long path, it fucking sucks. But if you know how to speedrun it, it's just a fun little thing to just go, oh shit, I'm in Labyrinth Zone. Okay, let me just zip through this platform and you're already done within 30 seconds. It's a fun thing to do. You can do a little Badnik bounce at the end just to save a little bit of time. It's just fun to do. Plus, you can do this little skip thing here if you do the original Sonic 1 or anything that uses the original Sonic engine. Which, again, pretty fun to do. I'm actually going to put this around where the other labyrinths are, which I assume are somewhere in the B tier. I don't even remember, honestly. I gotta actually find the fucking labyrinths again. Hold on.
A few moments later.
Okay, here are the labyrinths. So, I'm gonna put it about here. I know that's way too fucking high for it, but I just really like running through it. I do. It's like a victory lap if you ask me, if you're just trying to beat Sonic 1. Sky Chase Zone. Better in Mirage Saloon Act 1, but it still fucking sucks. The only thing it really has going for it is the fact if you do a one-charge spin dash, you could actually just rack up 10,000 point bonuses if you don't get hit, or jump for that matter. And you can just rack up lives. That's like the one fun thing you can do. But other than that, this zone fucking sucks. There's nothing you could really do for it. There's not really any redeeming qualities or anything like that. Starlight Act 1. Probably one of the better Sonic 1 zones. I'd say it maybe goes around... There's not really that many skips you can do, so I'd say maybe around here. Maybe here, actually. It's a fun little zone. I don't have that many complaints with it. Act 2, on the other hand, fun as fuck level to speedrun, especially in the original Sonic 1, if you can just jump over the wall. You can beat the zone under 30 seconds if you try hard enough. It's just fun to fuck around in. I'm actually gonna put this really fucking high up. I'm gonna put this around here, actually. That's fun level of speedrun. That's all I'll say. Act 3. I'd say it's not as good as the other acts, but it's still solid within its own right. If you play with Tails or something, it's still fun to speedrun. If you play with some other weird shit, it's still fun. It's just not as solid as the other acts. I'd say it goes around here. Though I would say it's a little low. They're all kind of all over the place, but yeah. Sandopolis Act 1. Actually really like this zone. It's not an A or an S. Yeah, I'd say it maybe goes somewhere in the B tier. The one problem I really have with it are the blocks take a little too long to push around. Those pulley things take way too long to finish. But other than that, it doesn't really overstay its welcome. The boss is bullshit though. It's just literally just waiting for it to kill itself, which takes way too long. I hate waiting, as you already know, but it's not really bad. I'd say it's better than Flying Battery Act 1, but it's not bad either like people want to make out to be. I'd say it goes around here. Act 2, on the other hand, it's really fucking linear. It's not as good as Act 1. There's not really that much you can explore around in. The light gimmick's okay. It's not too bad once you know what you're doing. It's too linear, if you ask me. That's like the one problem I have with it. It's not the fact that it's too long. It's the fact it's too linear. And as a result, I'd say it goes around here. Casino Night's still worse, but it's still not as good. Star Speedway Act 1 from Mania. Not really a fan of Star Speedway to begin with, so honestly this might be getting a C tier. I just don't know where. This might go here, which again might be a little low, but I don't know. I'm just not really a fan. Act 2 is also kind of but the Metal Sonic fight is pretty cool. It's a little hard to get through without getting hit, but zone itself is kind of though. At least if you ask me. People do find fun to speedrun, but I personally don't. I feel like it's a clusterfuck if you ask me. I'm gonna put it above Act 1, but I'm gonna put it here. The original Star Speedway. I literally can't fucking remember a thing about this. I think I remember the generator location. That's about it, really. I don't remember that much. The Star Speedway versions from Mania are definitely better than all of these, but I'd say this just goes down here. I just feel like it's a clusterfuck. Act 2 is around the same thing. I don't even really remember anything from it. Act 3. I'll be honest. Not really a fan of the Metal Sonic fight either. If those damn spikes weren't all over the damn place trying to fucking stop you, that would definitely make the fight a lot better, but as a result of those spikes, it just doesn't make it as fun. I like pretty much every other Metal Sonic fight more than this. This just doesn't really feel that fun. I'm gonna put it above the other two acts just because the theming of the whole Metal Sonic fight is actually cool. I'm gonna put it just below Doomsday Zone. Sky Sanctuary Zone. I'm gonna count this as both the Sonic version and the Knuckles version with a Super Mecha Sonic fight. The theming of this, fucking beautiful. The bosses in this, obviously you have the two callbacks of Sonic 1 and 2, which are obviously cool despite the physics being a little off. Mecha Sonic is definitely just a better version of Silver Sonic. He's a fun little thing to fight, especially if you have the Insta Shield, or Knuckles Glide for that matter. And, well, the level itself, still fun as fuck to run through, especially if you have Tails with you. You can just skip a ton of sections, which makes it it just makes it fun to speedrun. I like the theming, I like the layout, I like everything about it, really. Hell, even Knuckles' version isn't even bad either. The boss itself is pretty fun. You can easily 2-cycle it if you know what you're doing, but it's really fucking hard to do, so I end up having to 3-cycle it. Or even 4-cycle if I have to. It's pretty challenging for new players, too. It's a really fair challenge. It's honestly more of a fair challenge than the actual final boss for Sonic and Tails, if you ask me. And as a result, I'm gonna put this... You know what? This is going in A tier, actually. This might go about here, actually. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it just below Marble Garden Act 2. I'm gonna put it there. Spring Yard Zone Act 1. Kind of an A zone, but it might be the best Spring Yard act, if you ask me. It's not bad. It's better than Marble Zone, I'll say that much, but I don't really know. I might put it here, but it's mostly because that one skip that you can do with the speed shoes. You could do a really precise jump from the top of this little ledge up here all the way to the top path and then just speed through the entire stage in under 45 seconds, which is definitely really fun and satisfying to do. But actually, you know what? As a result of that, you know what? No. Because of that, I'm gonna put it here, actually. That's actually a really fun thing to do. The other acts, on the other hand, are kind of stupid, though. Act 2 doesn't really have the waiting problem, but has the bullshit level design problem. I just find myself getting hit by a ton of shit for no reason. Also, obviously, the one section with the bumpers is just stupid. That shouldn't really even be a thing. I just don't really like this. I'm gonna have to put this pretty low. I'm gonna put it around where Quartz Quadrant is. Act 3, on the other hand, Act 3 might actually be worse, and that's solely because of the waiting, again. I'm gonna put this below Labyrinth Zone Act 1. It's not bad per se. The boss itself is also pretty fun to speedrun, because you can actually hit him if he dips down. You can do a lot of weird shit, but you have 2 mandatory elevator sequences, which in the other acts you could solely skip, but if you're playing the original Sonic 1, you have to go through them here, which is completely bullshit, and I hate it. Because each one takes like fucking 25 seconds to complete, and it's just, I don't like it. Anyway, time for a good zone, which gets bogged down by a boss. Studiopolis Act 1. This would be one of the best Mania zones. The only problem is, the fucking boss sucks. It's like one of those Sonic Advance 2 bosses where you're just constantly running. But the problem is, it's all automated. Like, you have to hit these little missiles, which only come out once per cycle. Or, well, actually, no, they come out twice per cycle, but either way, it takes like 20 seconds for each one to come out. You have to run through it every single time, and it just takes like 2 minutes to beat the boss when the stage itself only takes like a minute or 2 just to get through. It's a total pace breaker, and if I have all the Chaos Emeralds, what I end up doing is just playing as Super Sonic, just holding right and doing something else. It's the exact same problem that stuff like Sandopolis Act 1, the entirety of Flying Battery Zone Sonic & Knuckles has. Though I will be honest, the zone itself is better, so I'm not going to put it all the way down there. I'm just going to have to put it in the middle of B tier, honestly. I really wish I didn't have to do that, but it's just the boss that really bogs it down. I just don't like it. Luckily for us, Act 2 is here. Act 2 is still fun. It's a little short for my taste, but I really do like what they did. The boss here is really fucking creative. There's a little bit of waiting involved, but it's not too much. I love the creativity they had behind the weather stuff. I love the fact that the boss ends up using one of those badniks from Mushroom Hill Zone. I love practically everything about it, honestly. It's a fun zone to speed around in. There's a lot of exploration that you can do. It's just fun to fuck around in, even in Encore mode. It's just fun. You know what? This is just gonna have to go... I'm gonna put this around here, actually. It's actually an S tier zone, actually. Act 1 would be up there too, but they just had to put the boss there. Titanic Monarch Act 1. This is also probably... This is honestly what Scrap Brain Act 1 should have been, honestly. It's like a combination of Scrap Brain, Metropolis Zone, and the Glow Ball bonus stage from Sonic & Knuckles. And honestly, it fits perfectly. I really do like this level. It's probably one of the best final Sonic levels, if you ask me. Which honestly might bump it up in the A tier somewhere. I might actually put it, like, maybe up here. Which might be a little high, but it's a fun zone to run around. The only problem I really have is the boss, which is a rematch against the Eye Guy from Sonic & Knuckles, which, again, that boss sucks ass, so I don't know. It's not really a pace breaker like how Studiopolis is. I like the zone, the boss is kind of but it's okay. Act 2 is also okay. I like what they did with like the 4 Trials thing. They did the same thing in Triple Trouble 16-bit, which I also enjoyed. I like the whole build up to the boss. The boss itself is kind of like the CD boss, but honestly a little better. I like what they did with having to fight the hard-boiled heavies. I wish you had to actually defeat them though, instead of just waiting for them to go back to the boss. I wish it wasn't a lot of waiting, but the boss itself is kind of cool. I just wish it wasn't all waiting. As a result, this is probably going to go down here. It's not a bad zone at all. I like it. Tidal Tempest Act 1. Probably better than Hydro City, if you ask me. It's honestly just a better Labyrinth than Labyrinth. Probably a better Hydro City than Hydro City. This is like a good underwater Sonic zone. You can zip through it if you really want to. You can explore it and find the generator if you really want to. You can really just fuck around. You're not really in danger of drowning or anything. It's just a fun zone to explore. This might be the best Sonic CD zone if you ask me. This is gonna go in low A tier. Act 2 is in a similar boat as well if you ask me. It's around the same level as Act 1. The generator's in a kind of a stupid spot since it's just on a main path in the dry land, but the fact it's kind of easy to find just kind of makes it a little better in my book. It's pretty easy to go back to the past, stuff like that. So it's gonna get A tier as well. It's not as good as the first act, but just barely. Act 3, because it's a CD boss, isn't gonna be that good either. So This is the one with all the bubbles that you have to pick up, and sometimes you might actually hit him. He only takes one hit to defeat. I don't know, it's just, I'm not really a fan of this boss either. I'm just gonna have to put this, it's not E tier per se, but it's not good either. I'm gonna put it down here. It's around the level of Metropolis Zone Act 3, especially with the boss. Wing Fortress Zone. Actually not a bad zone. People just are bad, honestly. I'm gonna say it goes maybe up here. There's some really tight platforming you can do. You can do some skips if you have Tails or Knuckles inside of the 2013 version. With Sonic, there's a ton of tight platforming you can do. If you're good at the game, you can do it quickly. The boss itself, challenging, but also pretty quick to do if you actually know what you're doing. There's some hidden stuff if you know where you're looking. Pretty much just a good penultimate Sonic level, if you ask me. Anyway, time for our optimism to fucking end. As our last 3 acts, all Wacky Workbench. Wacky Workbench Act 1. Stupid as hell. I fucking hate the gimmick here. I hate the floor thing. I hate how the crushers aren't actually crushers. Despite the fact every other fucking video game I've ever played pretty much tells you, hey, getting crushed is bad. Act 2. The generator location in Act 2 isn't as bad as Act 1, but it's still shit. Act 3, the boss is okay. I'd say it goes around here. It's still kind of shit, though. But yeah, that's our tier list. How much do you fucking hate my opinions? If you really hate my opinions, do me a favor and report the video. Make sure you dislike and unsubscribe, because that really helps me with this. This tier list will be in the description if you really want to prove me wrong. Make sure you give this as many shit emojis as you possibly can. Make sure you never hit that fucking bell button, and make sure your comments are as toxic as fucking possible. Thanks for watching, and I hope I never see you again.